Opened the door. "Mr. Harris, we're here to take your boy." That's what they said, through the frosted glass, 3 heavy knocks that didn't belong on a friendly porch, and I stood there barefoot on cool tile, counting my breath, like it might slow time, like the morning might go back to being a morning, if I waited 1 more second. I cracked the door 6 inches chain still on. Saw 3 shapes backed by Arizona sun, all squared shoulders and borrowed authority. Not cops, not even close. "Show me your warrant," I said, and Flat Top lifted a plastic sleeve with HOA letterhead like it was a magic trick. Article 912B, Custody Compliance. Your minor needs to be removed for evaluation. And I laughed once because my body didn't know what else to do. That's paper. I told him that's not a warrant. Out on the curb, Beverly Crane was pretending to water roses that bloomed last month. Visor, perfect stainless cup in hand. That lemon-clean smile people wear when they've never broken a sweat. And she lifted her drink at me, like a toast-mouthed. It's for the best, and you know the kind of smile. I mean the kind that says she's not just watching. She's participating. I stepped onto the mat. Kept my hands low and open. The way you stand when you want other men to make mistakes. I didn't sign up to let costumes take my kid. I signed up to paint my fence. Beige and Flat Top spoke in that HR training cadence. Refusal will be noted. Escalation to phase 2, yeah. That happened then. They turned like actors leaving a stage, climbed into a black SUV with tint too dark for a neighborhood where kids ride bikes. And when I shut the door, a strip of duct tape pulled at the frame. A notice slapped across my wood, like a ransom letter. Violation, visual blight. Fine, $75, and in small gray down low. The sentence that took all the oxygen from the room, persistent disruption may trigger compliance monitoring. Mesquite Springs was supposed to be quiet. That's why we moved there, after bases and deployments and sand. Chewing up my boots. I wanted a grill, a sunset, a porch where Lena didn't watch every slow car, like it was a threat. A house where our boy Mason would sleep so deep, the walls had to wake him. But the HOA kept handing us paper with the same stamp. Article 912B, lawn height, mailbox. Color, the shade, tarp over his trampoline. Different fines. Same code. Like they'd found a button and couldn't stop pushing it. Mason stood halfway down the stairs with his hair in angles and a t-shirt twisted from Sleep 14, trying not to look scared. "Dad, what was that?" he asked, and I told him the version I could carry without breaking him. People who think paper makes them right. He didn't smile. Lena didn't touch her eggs. She pushed them around like she was tracing a map. No one else could read it. That's the 4th notice. Why does everyone say? 912B. I said I'd find out. She said not good enough, and she was right. That night, a note waited under my wiper, phase 2. 9:15 p.m. Canyon Plaza lot. No seal. No signature. Just my last name. Spelled right like a dare. So I went under humming lights that made skin look sick. I let Flat Top finish his script. "You were warned," he said. And I took 2 steps, palm to clipboard. Paper snowed the asphalt forearm to throat. He met the hood hard. Bulldog lunged big, and not enough. Plan, I rolled his wrist and his knees buckled. The young one froze with his hands half up like he'd watched this on YouTube. I told him, "You don't want this." He shook his head, then I read the top page because I needed to know. Phase 3 approved. Target guardian. Harris. Extraction scheduled. Not Mason anymore. Me move the father so the system runs smooth. Sirens crept. Someone called Beverly's. Silver crossover slid in, and her phone was already up. Smile, small, and righteous. I drove home feeling like I'd swallowed gravel. Lena met me on the porch with that tight shoulder look that says, "I love you, and I'm furious with the world you smell like trouble," she said. Mason was on the couch under the glow of a muted TV. "It's over," I told him. And he shook his head. "No, Dad, it's starting." Juno Park showed up the next morning with a laptop and 2 energy drinks and eyes that don't miss. I've known Juno a long time. She builds systems and breaks them with a surgeon's hands. She opened folders with names that sound friendly and feel cold. CarePath Family, Oversight, Northbridge, Holdings, Helios, Metrics. Group she traced money. Like a teacher. Connecticut P.O. Box to Luxembourg to Dubai. Right back home. Private. Predictive analytics. "You're a data set," she said. "They model the neighborhood pressure test. The families see who cracks, then sell the cure." The images made my stomach turn. Mason at the bus stop, me on the porch at 2 a.m., with a cigarette. I never admitted to Mason asleep. Shot through the split in our curtain. I never thought about VA notes I'd said once when I thought talking might help. Some nights I feel more dangerous to myself than anyone else highlighted. Like a gift to people who don't love you. Recommendations underneath, with words that clang. Guardian volatility. Risk minor. Stability flag escalate to phase 3, and there on screen. A blue wireframe of my boy, with height, gait. Voice pattern, a confidence score, like we were ranking baseball cards 92%. And he didn't look at me when he said, "Then why does it feel like they know me?" And I didn't have a good answer. Only a promise I should never make tomorrow. I end it. They didn't wait for tomorrow. They never do at 3 a.m. The back door whispered, and then my hallway turned into a fight. First one. Dragging Mason by his collar. Numbers in his mic. Like my son was inventory. I drove him into drywall, and he forgot how to finish his sentence. Second slipped a knife, grazed my arm. I bounced his face off the kitchen table until the table complained. Third was a finisher. Big, steady patient. He put fire in my ribs, and I painted stars in his vision with a headbutt. And when I saw Mason's photo laminated on his vest, like a hunting tag, something in me snapped, and then welded. Shut, I zip. Tied wrists and called the cops myself. The tall one looked from me to the blood to the phone. I'd unlocked with a thief's thumb, read, "Guardian removal. Phase 3. Active. Extraction." Window read it twice. Put his cuffs away, yeah. That happened. The board meeting that night looked like a school play that got hijacked by a real story. Standing room phones up 7 members in a row with their coffee and their rules. Beverly centered like a Sunday anchor. "Mr. Harris, we weren't expecting you." I didn't give a speech. I hit play, and her own voice filled the room. Proceed. "Keep it tidy. He won't fight. They all crack." Eventually, the quiet that followed had weight. The old army jacket 2 rows back stood up. My granddaughter's 6. I got one of those letters. "Beverly, did you send it?" Someone moved to suspend her hands, went up funding frozen audit. Ordered it, should have felt like victory. It felt like part 1. Because that night, a voice called from no name and said what I already suspected. Phase 4 wasn't hers to approve. We don't clean up messes, we bury them. And I've heard that cadence in places where badges are quiet and orders are simple. Not HOA, not petty professional cold. Juno's warehouse sits behind a dead carpet outlet. Inside, it smells like solder and dust and all-nighter energy. She'd hung those shiny blankets in the rafters and called it a signal curtain. Mapped the city on 3 screens. Street cam pings that don't belong to the city. Plate readers routed through donation servers. HOA cameras tied to a backbone. Nobody at the bake sale knows exists. They weren't tracking my phone. They were tracking me. Heart rate estimates from thermal gait. Strain agitation markers like a fitness app. For control and the physical node. Southwest readiness. Logistics center. Beige. Cinder block with a friendly sign. A culvert out back. A contractor door that recognizes the right pulse. Elliot Ward's badge worked like a key. There's always an Elliot, but we set roles like grown-ups pretending this was normal. I breach Juno blinds. Lena runs comms and carries non-lethal. Mason sits in the van with a dead man's switch he shouldn't have to touch but did. And yes, we argued about that. And no, love didn't mean we agreed, just that we moved anyway. We dropped into bleach-cold water at 2:42, surfaced under a blind camera, and walked a hallway so clean it felt wrong. The guards were pros, not pretend. Lena stripped a rifle like she never forgot how, and gave me that look wives give when they catch you still underestimating them. You thought a Marine instructor marries soft, she said, and even with alarms warming up. I smiled. Because that's us. You know what I mean. The core was a mausoleum. Rows of black towers. Red lights blinking like midnight heartbeats. Wall screens rolling through families like ours, flattened into graphs in the center. A hologram of my boy. Blue wireframe breathing numbers, and I put a hand on his shoulder and promised him. With my touch, not my mouth. We plug in. Juno said 10. 2030. Purge cycle. Spinning up guards from West Hall. Then the stairwell. We kept it non-lethal because lines matter even in rooms built to erase them. Juno called 82%. Live now or lose it. And she hit enter. Files spidered out to universities and whistle nodes and vaults that exist to be inconvenient. Foam bricks at the tower bases did their quiet work. We ran the floor. Hiccuped like the building swallowed hard. Night outside bloomed orange. No cheering. Just the long exhale you take when you've been clenching for 2 months. By noon, anchors were stumbling over Project Lantern and Guardian removal, like their mouths didn't want to shape those words. One took off her earpiece and said, "I'm not reading this propaganda." Not today. Beverly tried an interview, and the feed died at 7 minutes. Elliot evaporated. Juno texted once. Phase 6 isn't local. Watch the school contracts, watch the recruiters. They want the kids. Then she ghosted north, and I stood in my garage with Mason while he stared at the same bike Beverly once called visual blight and asked if he'd ever be normal again. I told him the only honest thing. Not normal, but ready. Ready is better. Mrs. Delgado from across the street walked to our curb in a pink cardigan and said for everyone to hear. They tried to take his boy, and he stopped them. Don't forget that. And maybe that's what community is. One person saying a true thing out loud. So it sticks, mesquite. Springs still looked like sprinklers and mail trucks and chalk on hot sidewalks. But it felt different. Doorbell cameras weren't toys anymore. Clipboards weren't neutral yet. Mason started answering the door again. Lena put both shoes in the closet instead of one by the bed. Which is how peace arrives. Sometimes small and stubborn and honest. The unknown number called once more. Same voice, same message. We don't clean up. Messes, we bury them. Not a bluff, a promise. And here's the part that gets people arguing. Did I go too far or not far enough? When paper pretends to be law and neighbors play cop, and a system turns kids into models and dads into obstacles, what's the moral line that keeps your family whole? Tell me your truth in the comments. If you've ever been fined for nonsense, cornered by a board with clipboards misread because you're loud or trained or honest, I want to hear it. What's safety? Who gets to define it? And if you were on that porch with 3 silhouettes and a duct-taped letter, would you open the door or break the script? Like I did. Be real, because that's how truth wins. Not pretty. Not fast, but when enough of us say we see it, it lands.